This is the daily wrestling news for March 10th, 2021. We are powered by the Eastern Observer. My name is Ryan Joy, and I'm coming to you live from Minutes to Bell Time Studios on the beautiful Treasure Coast of the Sunshine State. And I'm joined today by the living legend, John DeConi. John, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you, Ryan?
Very good. Very good. We have a loaded agenda again today. We have the ridiculously random non-wrestling audience needs to know you better question of the day, followed by the news, followed by Impact Wrestling on Access TV, plus Impact Sacrifice coming up this weekend, NXT tonight, New Japan Cup updates, lots to get into, including trivia at the end, which is WrestleMania 8. So if you've been following along, you might have noticed the pattern, and maybe you did some studying. We'll see how you do.
Wish I thought that far ahead.
All right, let me ring the bell, and we will get underway. Today's ridiculously random non-wrestling audience needs to know you better question of the day is brought to you by Pro Wrestling Pick'em, a place where you can join or host a Pick'em league to test your predictive skills in the world of pro wrestling. Create an account and join a league now at ProWrestlingPick'em.com. You can play against your friends or play against the universe. Like I've been preaching, do sign up now, learn the platform, have fun with it. That'll be a good time. I went 7-1 at Revolution. So, John, today's question is, what's the last Lego project that you assembled?
Okay, if you had asked me this, pardon me, last year, I would have had to go back at least 20 years into my memory. But in this past year, I spent a little quality time with my 6-year-old niece and helped put together a little Frozen scene. It was like the front of the castle and like a horse and whatnot.
Okay.
A couple of archways. Very nice.
Yeah, I have a similar thing. We usually do a Lego Advent calendar. So we had a Harry Potter Lego Advent calendar this year. I think it was our second to do. I think we did one last year too. So that's been our little tradition. So we always get Legos in at least once a year. So
very nice.
On to the wrestling.
Yes.
We have a few news stories to get through today, and the news is always brought to you by the Body Slam Brigade newsletter. 4,000 people. We were like 20 people shy of getting to 4,000 that are getting this newsletter that I write every week. It's free. It comes out Friday at 11 a.m. Combines all the week's top stories into one place so that you can read it. Also has all the results in there typically too. So it's a good resource for you to look back on. We're getting close to the 50th issue, so do check that out. BodySlamBrigade.com. All right, John. Kenny Omega will wrestle the Impact World Champion at Rebellion in a title versus title match. That was announced at the end of Impact Wrestling last night. I think that's a big story. It's either going to be Moose or Rich Swann versus Kenny Omega. I am a little bit hesitant, though, because I don't understand if it is going to be title for title or champion versus champion. The other news places are reporting it as title for title, both championships on the line, but those words were not said. How did you take it?
Yeah, I have it in my notes very specifically, title versus title.
Yes.
So, that's quite different than title for title.
I read on PW Insider and F4W Online, both resources that I use routinely. I trust them as news sources, and they both are saying that it is title for title, but those words were not said. So I don't. Right. So unless they have some other input on that, I don't believe that has been an announced thing.
Yeah.
Do you think are we looking into this too much? Title versus title, is that the same? Are we looking into
Absolutely not. No, it like to have champions face off. Okay, one company has to, put their ego aside. Their champion's going to eventually wind up taking a pinfall or taking something. The idea of having there's 3-4 major companies having one man walk around with 2 world titles.
Yeah.
To have some guy come over from another show and take your world title, you're not going to get as much of his time because he's made, primarily on the other show. That is a big, big difference.
Yeah. And the other thing is, Moose and Rich Swann, they both have their own. One has the Impact Championship, one has the TNA World Championship. Impact legitimized both belts recently, so this is a world champion versus world champion consolidation match this weekend. And you could have a no finish there that leaves both of them with championship belts, and maybe you could have this Rebellion show be a three-way with all these belts on the line. If Omega's a belt collector, the more the merrier, right? Like if that's the plan.
Yeah, I always kind of had this inkling in the back of my head that if Kenny was going to, start this, pardon me, this whole belt collector thing, that he might wind up going after Moose and taking that belt off the table, that freed things up for Impact. But now they're having this unification, so like you said, unless there's a non-finish, that makes Rebellion a whole lot different.
And the other interesting thing is that we know in the history of AEW, there's been one disqualification in an Iron Man match, and I think 2 countouts. So, and I don't think those have been on Dynamite or pay-per-view. I think they were dark and stuff. So, so if this was on AEW television, you're guaranteed pretty much a finish in the title versus title match. At Impact, maybe they have more leeway, but if Tony Khan's involved with this booking, I would think we're going to get a serious finish at Rebellion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. They don't like to leave things open-ended.
Right. Now you can always protect one of them. If it is a one-on-one match, maybe Rich Swann or Moose, whoever's the odd man out, gets involved. But real interesting happening. If Kenny Omega is the champion of champions here, I don't know. How does that come to an end, and how do they eventually amicably split? Or maybe they have a long-term plan. I don't know.
Yeah, that is exactly the first thing that I thought of was, I can see him consolidating all this stuff. I can see him being this exalted champion, but how do you then back out of that? Right. It's weird.
Ages ago, we would have had, we had the NWA, which was, sort of this over-the-top type of organization that had all of these localized regional promotions underneath. And so you would have every promotion would have their champion, but then you'd have your traveling world champion on top. Maybe we get to a place where that's what's going on here. Impact has 4 pay-per-views a year. AEW has 4 pay-per-views a year. If you have one champion, they can be in all those places.
It's true. Yeah, you're going to miss them week to week occasionally, but yeah, they certainly can work 8 nights a year, big matches.
Yeah, and then I don't know what Nick Aldis would have to say about this, but they're back for the Attack this month, so we'll see what happens. But I think this is a really cool story, really interesting. Hopefully, it is title for title like WrestleMania 6, but it might be too early to say, and I'd like for them to clarify that in the next couple of days.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure we'll hear it referenced probably nonstop on Saturday on Impact Plus. So hopefully we'll have some clarification this weekend.
Yeah, I don't want to be walking in having a legitimate finish in the match, and then somebody saying, "Oh, it wasn't title for title." That will annoy me. I want to know before we get into this. Okay. Some other news items. EC3 versus Jay Briscoe was announced for Ring of Honor's 19th anniversary show at the end of March 26th. That's a Friday. That adds to the already established card, which is topped by Jay Lethal versus Roosh for the ROH World Championship. This will be their first pay-per-view of the year, and it's their anniversary show. So 2 big names added to the lineup. Straight Up Steve Austin did its best rating of the season on Monday with the Charlotte Flair episode. It did about 750,000 viewers, so it's nice to see them go out the strongest that they had all season. So,
yeah, Charlotte was a lot of fun on that episode. So, hey, I guess that's what it's all about. Wrestling fans, they stay for the beginning of that show, and if they go like, "Who the heck is this guy?" I guess they punch out, but they see a wrestler that they know and love, and they're sticking around.
So the other interesting thing they did on this, obviously they had the Monday Night Raw lead in. Most of them have. There was one that dipped way down in the ratings that did not have a lead in because they jammed, I think, Young Rock in between or something like that.
Yep.
But this one had the Raw lead in it, but they also advertised it during Raw. And, a couple of different times they played extended clips from the episode. So they did a little bit more work to boost that rating this time. So, and I think it worked out. So.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently what they're thinking was right.
I mean, 750,000 viewers is a really great rating for that type of show when you consider that's more than NXT does on average.
And you're talking 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, exactly. So they're bringing in some ratings for the USA Network, NBC, their partner. At the same time as Straight Up Steve Austin, on the WWE Network is Raw Talk. And on Raw Talk this week, Peyton Royce cut a pretty serious promo where she said she's been overlooked. She moved across the world to pursue this dream. She says, "Stop wasting my time. Give me Asuka." So, John, it was a good promo, and everybody wants some of Asuka right now.
Yeah. There's a lot of people in line. Peyton definitely made her play for that spot, and I loved her and Billy as the Iconics. Both of them, although Billy has been pretty funny, both of them have kind of been a little lost in the shuffle since then. I don't know why they ever bothered to do that if they didn't have a plan for either of them. I would love to see Peyton get this shot, but as we talked about in pre-production, I don't think anyone, unless it's Charlotte, I don't think any one person's getting plugged right in there. We might have some kind of qualifiers, eliminators, or as we also talked about, maybe just a flat-out battle royal.
Yeah. Well, and like this year, they have all this opportunity in the world. They have two nights of shows, and they can do that. Battle Royal on night one, like that's what you suggested in pre-prod. Battle Royal on night one to determine Asuka's challenger on night two, something like that. But everybody has staked the claim. Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke, Peyton Royce, Charlotte Flair, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax. Everybody wants Asuka, but nobody is ready for Asuka, as the saying goes. F4W Online reports that John Laurinaitis is back at the head of talent relations for WWE. Laurinaitis last held the position following the resignation of Jim Ross in 2004. He held it all the way to 2012 when he resigned himself. Talent relations is going to be split into two departments now: talent management and talent branding. Talent branding is the one where they're trying to line up deals and third-party deals for the talent. Laurinaitis will be the GM of talent relations, so he'll be over both those departments.
I can't hear his.
Oh, go ahead.
I can't hear his name without thinking of Santino referring to him as Johnny Laryngitis.
Or thinking of him on Total Bellas, if you are a fan.
Yes.
Final thing in the news is I announced yesterday, actually I announced Monday, but gave a rundown yesterday. The Daily Wrestling News Show is going on a kind of a hiatus next week. I'm taking the week off, but we have pre-recorded some great episodes on WrestleManias from years gone by. John will be with me on Monday to talk about WrestleMania 4, then John Smith on Tuesday with WrestleMania 18. Al Carl is on Wednesday with WrestleMania 6, and he's on Friday with WrestleMania 36, and then Travis is on Thursday with WrestleMania 24. So we're giving you a full week of shows. They're just all pre-recorded. They're not live, so they're still going to be very good. So tune in. We had a lot of fun recording them. So
100%.
And John, we got more in the can too, right? Yeah.
Say again?
We got more in the can too. You and I have a WrestleMania 20 episode that we're going to air later. So, all right. Well, I think that covers the news properly. But let's get into Impact from last night. It's a 6-match show with plenty of other stuff going in. It's the Go Home for Sacrifice, which is an Impact Plus special this weekend on Saturday. Most of the stuff has a lead-in to the pay-per-view or the Plus special. So Jazz got a win over Tasha Steelz in the opening round or opening match. That is a lead-in to the Sacrifice match. It's the Knockouts Championship or Tag Team Championship match of Jazz and Jordan Grace versus Steelz and Hogan. Combined with that, you had ODB wrestling Susan at the end of the show. ODB got that win. and that is kind of a precursor to ODB versus Deonna Purrazzo for the Knockouts Championship this weekend. So those two matches lead in. James Storm and Chris Sabin got a win over Rohit and Shera. And then there turned into some issues between Rohit and Shera. That has nothing there, so there's nothing scheduled for Sacrifice this weekend, John. But it looks like that little alliance is very short-lived.
Yeah. I was afraid that Shera was going to crack Rohit's head open as he squeezed him and lifted him off the ground. Yes. But clearly, he was not there to be anybody's butler. He does not owe him anything.
Yeah, those were the words that were spoken. Trey Miguel got a win over Sam Beal. Sam Beal is the student from Trey's gym that Sami Callihan abducted or befriended or whatever.
Brainwashed.
Yeah. Trey used his crazy figure 4 sharpshooter, step over toe hold, STF submission move to get a win over Sam in 46 seconds. Afterwards, Sami Callihan gave the poor guy a pile driver. So I guess everything Trey said about Sami is true. We all know that. But no match announced there, though. So I guess they're holding on to that for Rebellion or something else. But no match for Trey or Sami Callihan for Sacrifice.
This is in its infancy in terms of it had a little build with Sami poking at him backstage, but it only got physical, I think, just last week. So yeah, they still have a slow burn to do.
Sami Callihan's one of these guys where they always have him in a program, but they don't really have him wrestle until it's a big match, right? Like, they might put him in a tag here or there, but like that Eddie Edwards feud that he just had the latest chapter in, there wasn't a lot of wrestling that led up to the big barbed wire massacre. So
no, a lot of kidnapping, a lot of mind effing, if you will, but yeah, not a lot of actual between the ropes.
Right. So I think that's the deal with Sami Callihan. When he goes into a program, it's going to be a lot of storytelling before you get to a match. So
absolutely.
Chris Bay, he defeated Ace Austin. Now, Ace Austin has the X Division Championship match this weekend, but Chris Bay has a win over him now. So what happens here?
That I just did not understand. I mean, you had on before the Impact, you had Madman Fulton versus TJP. You had TJP win and Ace Austin immediately attack him, hit him with the X Cup trophy. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, we're building towards that. This guy's got a title shot. If you're not going to put Bay in it and make it a triple threat, what in God's name was the purpose of giving Ace Austin a loss leading into this title shot?
The only thing I can think of is Ace Austin's going to win this match, and then he has a built-in opponent with Chris Bay. But we also saw more dealings with TJP. Josh Alexander stopped by Swingers Palace to talk to TJP and kind of stake his claim for the X Division Championship. So it's kind of like you have a program with TJP and Josh Alexander going. You got Chris Bay, who has a win over Ace Austin. Prior to Ace Austin and Chris Bay getting involved in this X Division scramble, they were both competing for the World Championship. So everybody's kind of out of place. So,
yeah, Impact just, a lot of times it feels like they're just throwing darts. Now, the in-ring product is always more often than not, it is very, very good. But sometimes the lead up and the storylines around it is like, what? How did we get here? Why are we doing this? When they get in the ring, it'll be good. So I'll go along for the ride.
Yeah. Yeah, and that, by the way, that Chris Bay and Ace Austin match was 18 and a half minutes. You're not getting a lot of television matches that are that long. That don't have Sheamus and Drew McIntyre's name on them. But that's a lot of time. And we already mentioned ODB getting her win over Susan. Of course, the show ends with the Moose and Rich Swann and Scott D'Amore segment. A couple other things happened on the show that lead into matches. Last night they added 4 matches to sacrifice. They doubled the card almost. Eddie Edwards is going to compete against Brian Myers in a hold harmless match. And that was playing off of a segment in the back with Scott D'Amore and Brian Myers. I guess Brian Myers threw a whole bunch of litigation Scott's way, and Scott just kind of shoved it off his desk and said, "How about a hold harmless match?" So,
which I'm not sure Brian Myers has any idea what it means.
Yeah, he thought it was like a submission match, and it turns out it's a no DQ match, basically. In a cute segment backstage, Decay and Reno Scum got into a little discussion, and they basically agreed to have a match this weekend. And I think the line was Crazy Steve at the end said something like, "Those guys are crazy." they're creepy or something, but words typically reserved for Decay.
That match, I'm almost a little upset the way it shook out. I was texting with our buddy Al Carl, telling him what matches looked like they were headed towards being added to the card. And the way that interaction played out, you had Triple XL who won't hit a girl, so they walked away. They don't want anything to do with Decay. They don't want to accidentally hurt Rosemary. And then Reno Scum said, "We've got no such problems." So I thought it was going to be 3-on-2 where Rosemary would actually be a part of the match. And then, when they put up the graphic at the end of the night, it was, Decay or Steven Torus with Rosemary. So I guess she's going to be outside.
Yeah, I saw that as well. And I agree. When the whole interview segment or backstage segment was leading to Rosemary's involvement. So it's kind of weird, but it's Impact. So James Storm and Chris Sabin, we mentioned they got the win over Rohit and Shera early in the night. They also seem to have a problem with Eric Young's treatment of Cody Deaner. So they confronted EY, and they got a little beat down for that. And that leads us to a match this weekend. Cody Deaner and Joe Doring versus James Storm and Chris Sabin. Storm and Sabin are going to have Jake something in their corner to try to equalize the influence of Eric Young. So that's another match that was added for Sacrifice this weekend. You got a thought on who's going to take that one?
I really do. It probably will be Violent by Design because, there's Sabin and Storm trying to stick up for Deaner, and he's the one who throws the first haymaker that leads to that whole melee. So they seem to, Violent by Design, the they that I'm referring to, seem to be dysfunctional, but very much, like the I can beat up my brother, but you can't kind of.
Yeah. The, Cody Deaner, Jake something used to be his heavy, and now his heavy is Joe Doring. I think he got an upgrade. I think Doring is a little bit more imposing. So, and also in another match that was just announced, there was nothing on Impact this week anyway to lead into this, but Tenille and Caleb will be facing Havoc and Nevaeh. We do have lots of storyline with Havoc and Nevaeh and their potential split and Tenille trying to get in between them and stuff like that. So lots of storyline there, just nothing on Impact this week. So
yeah, when that graphic came up, I was like, wait a minute, what did I miss a segment? When did that get added? Last we saw Havoc and Nevaeh was purposely keeping Havoc at arm's length, but good to see them back again.
Well, the matchmakers may have made that and not asked Nevaeh, her permission or whatever. So we'll see what this all leads to. I think that covers Impact. The big story there, of course, is the World Championship picture that isn't going to play out really until Rebellion in April. So, but tonight we have more championship implications. NXT tonight, we have 2 title matches: Finn Balor versus Adam Cole, Io Shirai versus Toni Storm. We also have Xia Li versus Caden Carter. And on top of all that, William Regal's making 2 major announcements. So let's start with the Balor and Cole match. Last night on the East Central Wrestling Podcast, I think we gave this some time, John, but do you see any chance here that Adam Cole walks away with the belt?
I think there's always a chance. I would never say that this is one of those, absolutely not. But I think Balor will hold it. He's had a nice run here where he's never really looked dominant. He's put on some fantastic matches that were very long, very well fought, very hard fought, and he pulls them out in the end. And that in that way, he is the dominant champion. He's not running over anyone. And I think that build to make him this technician that gets out of everything and this, that, and the other thing is leading towards him eventually putting over Karrion Kross. But I also wouldn't be terribly surprised if all of a sudden Cole took it back and maybe it bounced around between himself, Kyle O'Reilly. It could make a couple of stops on its way to Kross. But I think probably the more likely scenario is Balor going straight to Kross.
Yeah, I do too. I think the smart money is on picking Finn Balor in this match, and Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly obviously is a built-in feud that whether there's a championship there or not doesn't really matter. I don't think so. That might be part of the solution there. Io Shirai and Toni Storm. I don't know on this one. I'm feeling it's Toni time.
I would be very happy with you being right. I would love to see Toni take this title. If there were points on the line, I'd be sticking with Io, but I guess I'll kind of be rooting for Toni.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's kind of a tough thing to figure out in light of these major announcements coming from William Regal. Obviously, I think for a long time, people have thought, well, look at all these women that are going to get called up like any moment. You know, your Io Shirai's, your Dakota Kai's, your Raquel Gonzalez, Rhea Ripley did get called up. All these people, Candice LeRae, by the way. Candice LeRae. That was interesting. Candice LeRae, all these people that could potentially be called up at any moment. But in light of these new announcements, we certainly think that one of them could be tag titles, and they're going to need all the women they can put together for that division down there. So.
Yeah, they have a lot there right now. We just saw a tag tournament. There were other teams. If everyone stays, that tag division will be rich to a degree. But if people start moving on, then we get back to the point where we are, as of last week, where I think a lot of us really wanted to see Dakota and Raquel take those titles to pull in more of the NXT gals, and then still have the chance to go to Raw, go to SmackDown. And that probably should have been the way that it worked out. But, I guess there'll be some built-in excitement in crowning the first NXT women's tag team champions. But they may run into a scenario pretty quickly where, just like Raw and SmackDown, there's not a lot of teams to really keep this thing going.
So. Yeah, Raw and SmackDown, I think the issue is if nothing else, the largest issue is with the men's tag division. So here's another point. So I think a lot of people are expecting one of these major announcements to be a day of the week change for NXT.
Yep.
Do you think that if they do that, they're going to set up like a super show for their first Tuesday that includes maybe the debut of, I don't know, Taya Valkyrie or anybody else that's out there that they haven't put on television yet?
Yeah, well, Taya makes the most sense, is considering that at least for the first couple of shows, you would think they're going to be going head to head with Impact, and look, here's the longest running Impact Knockouts champion right here on your new Tuesday night destination. So
yeah,
that would make a lot of sense.
Al Carl posing a great question: if there are tag titles announced, are they going to do another tournament, or are they just going to give them to Dakota and Raquel? There's no chance in my mind that they're going to give titles to anybody, right? I don't. Not since Triple H has that happened.
Now, wait a minute. Who makes the decisions backstage at NXT?
Oh no! Oh no!
I don't see it though.
Yeah. So speaking of the women's tag scenario. Kaden Carter, the other half of Casey and Kaden, she is going to have a match against Xia Li. I think John Smith said last night he's given it 2.5 minutes. Yeah, I think you gave it a little bit of extra time. So
a little bit more than that, just because maybe Casey makes an appearance and causes a little trouble. But I don't see anyone. I think Xia is going to continue to rip through people for a little while.
Yeah. So the other thing is, so we have these two announcements. We battered around the NXT Women's Tag title as one option. That certainly seems, based on the way Regal set that up last week, that that's going to be an announcement. Tony Storm spoke about that with Sportskeeda earlier this week. She said, if that happens, that's going to change the entire division. I mean, we've got more women than we ever have, so it's going to be entertaining as hell. Like, if that's the case, it might as well just be all women. And she laughs. So maybe the new NXT is, maybe that's the announcement, that NXT is going to be a women's only show.
Wouldn't that be something?
There's also rumors going on about a two-night takeover. The last Wednesday before WrestleMania, followed by the Thursday, as being a double takeover episode. So that's out there. That's a potential announcement. So I think it's going to be a newsworthy episode of NXT tonight.
Yeah, you do not want to miss it.
Yeah. John Smith and I will have our hands full tomorrow. All right, so a couple of more pieces of business before we get into trivia for the day. John, you watched some Coastal Championship Wrestling last night. A live number 1.25, two-match show. Matthew Justin versus a familiar face, Chase Stevens, in the opening contest. Actually, two familiar faces in there, right? Because Bill Alfonso is a familiar face, I would assume.
Can't forget Fonzie, yeah, who hasn't lost a step. He is as shot out of a cannon and obnoxious as he's ever been.
Yes.
The 20 years since probably the last time I saw him have not slowed him in the least.
No, and so the first match, his guy Matthew Justice wrestled the hardcore match against Chase Stevens, and they went all over the arena. This was taped up in Nashville, one of their more recent shows, and so they wrestled all over. Ended up being finish in the middle, table spot, and all that. But fun match, a long match, like 17, 18 minutes. I think most of the episode was that. And then in the main event, Jake St. Patrick, who we had on the Daily Wrestling News show a couple of weeks ago, he wrestled for CCW's top title against El Jefe Santos, and he didn't get the win, but at the end, Bram, who is Thomas Latimer from NWA, another familiar face, came out and he has issued the challenge. So May 25th, it's going to be Santos versus Bram, which I believe Neilio mentioned on Monday. So
that's big fellas about to go at it.
Yeah. Santos is a big guy, and so is Latimer. So I mean, they're really both jacked. So if I was in Nashville, I'd be there, but that's a bit of a hike. And I want to update people on the New Japan Cup. So I was mentioned before on the show, we all filled out brackets, and here's how we're doing. John Smith, Travis, and my wife have picked 11 of the 13 opening round 11 of the 14 opening round contests correctly. Al, he got 10 of them. Myself and John DeConnie, we're sitting in the back seat with 9, but so we'll see how things proceed. This morning on the right side of the bracket, we had Jay White make it through. He beat Toa Hanare. Yoshihashi and David Finlay got through. So those were the updates from this morning. Tomorrow, the New Japan Cup second round commences with 2 matches, Evil versus Jeff Cobb and the Great Okan versus Yano. And actually, of all the matches, those are actually really hard to call. Evil got the first round bye, so he seems like a favorite. He won last year. Jeff Cobb has been unstoppable, though. He has got the pin in every single match along this whole tour, whether it's a tag match or obviously singles matches. He's been dominant. And then on the other match, Great Okan versus Yano. Yano can beat anybody any night with his antics of taping somebody to the outside barrier and count out or whatever. So, but if Okan gets through that and Cobb gets through his match, then we have Cobb versus Okan. They're tag team partners facing each other. So that's a potential outcome that we could get. It's not the way my bracket goes, so I hope that's not the case.
Really looking forward to that Evil Cobb match.
Yeah, that should be good. 2 big guys. Evil's style should work well with Cobb, so we'll give it its time tomorrow morning at like 5. So the show starts at 4:30. So on to trivia, John. Are you ready? You're
Never.
currently not in the lead. Travis has a total of 6 questions correct, so he's technically in the lead. I'm sure he likes that start position of the week, so he can get a little extra build there. John Smith, he also went with a perfect plex, although I haven't updated his stats at the bottom last week. So he's 5 for 5. You're 5 for 5. We're doing WrestleMania 8 today is your trivia. So let's get underway. It is the tradition at WrestleMania to have a famous musician perform America the Beautiful. That didn't happen here, though, at WrestleMania 8. It was a country music star performing the Star Spangled Banner. Who was the country music star? And I don't have multiple choice for you, but I could come up with it if I needed to.
8. Might be too early to be sure.
Ian might have made the joke that it was Tito Santana's sister. There's your clue.
And his sister, country music star. It's the only thing that keeps coming in my head, but I think it's too early for her career, Shania Twain. So,
different person with red hair. It would be Reba McEntire.
Reba.
Okay, 0 for 1. Travis is feeling really good about that. Money Inc., Ted DiBiase and IRS defended the WWF Tag Team Championships on this card. They would lose by countout, which is their standard procedure, to this team. Is it the Nasty Boys, the Legion of Doom, the Steiner Brothers, or the Natural Disasters?
They were supposed to face LOD, but I think it wound up being the Natural Disasters.
You are correct on this one. You are correct.
Reba McEntire.
Yep. Who wrestled for the Intercontinental Championship on this card? Was it Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect, Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper, or Roddy Piper versus the Mountie?
It was Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper.
Yes, that is correct. Bret Hart was forced. He lost the title on a house show to the Mountie, and then the Mountie lost the title to Roddy at the Royal Rumble, and then Roddy would lose the title back to Bret Hart here. Okay, next one's a fun question for me. So, this manager made a debut at WrestleMania 8. He told Mean Gene that he came not to get rich, but to get even. And I'm not giving you multiple choice, but I am going to read a portion of the promo to see if that might help. From the rocking of the cradle to the rolling of the hearse, all the tag teams out there ask themselves this question: is the going up worth the coming down? Because his clients are great because we dare to be great, and we've always earned our money the old-fashioned way. We beat people for it. So who is this manager?
Manager of a tag team.
Coincidentally, this promo actually is the thing that most sticks out about WrestleMania 8 to me. So that's why you're getting this trivia question.
Yeah. The only person that I can think of from that card that I don't remember a lot about, so it could have been, but I don't remember him being with a tag team. I know he was with Sid. It's Harvey Whippleman.
So this tag team did not have a match, and it is Paul Ellering.
Okay. They were supposed to be on the card. One of them was suspended, so they didn't make it to the card. Makes sense. Okay.
Hawk would say, and I'm quoting from memory here, so the words may not be completely accurate. He said something along the lines of, "We're a runaway train. Nobody's driving. But now, look who's driving the train." Scary, huh? So, like I said, that interview for some reason sticks out in my head. All right, so let's see. Adding things up here, it looks like you are 2 for 4. This is a must-win situation. The commentary team for this event was Monsoon and Ventura, Monsoon and Heenan, Ross, Savage, and Heenan, or McMahon and Heenan.
Give me those again, please.
Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura, Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, Jim Ross, Randy Savage, and Bobby Heenan, or Vince McMahon and Bobby Heenan.
Monsoon and Ventura.
Ooh, Ventura's last WrestleMania was 6, I believe. This was Monsoon and Heenan, and it was Gorilla's last WrestleMania.
Oh my God, my favorite team, and that's usually my guess for every time you ask me about the announced team. And the one time that it was the answer, I got it.
I will tell you, it's the only time in WrestleMania trivia that it will be the correct answer. So, Monsoon and Heenan. Okay, well, so that means, unfortunately, for the second time this week, I have to play. And your streak snapped. You had a lot of perfect plexes going and a lot of wins. So you are now going to be 7 for 10 for the week or for the month. And I guess those WrestleManias next week are going to all figure in. And Al Carl has 2 shows, so he's going to catch up.
So. Yeah, he certainly is, I'm sure.
Yeah. Rain Man cometh. All right. Here we go. So everybody can understand other things they can do and wear and watch. The Drop Kick t-shirt. It is the featured shirt this month. Check it out at $20. This shirt is a steal of a deal. It already comes in the super soft style. No upcharge for that. All sizes are the same price. No upcharge for sizes. And you can get it in a bunch of different colors. Also, $20 includes the shipping. God, it's a good deal. So much better than the other guys. And they're really creative, and it supports me, and it supports an independent artist that I worked with to come up with all these illustrations. Lots of fun. I enjoy them. Hope you do too. And if you don't, that's fine. But do enjoy the Primetime Rundown. Join Joey Jarzenka, Ian Schreier, and Rob DeLuca on Friday nights for the Primetime Rundown. They take you through the world of sports. The show kicks off at 6 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. And then as we had last night, and we have every week on Tuesday, we have the Essential Wrestling Podcast. Al Carl will be back in the host position next week, and John DeConnie will be there. John Smith will be there. Gary Mahaffey will be there. Travis will be there in my absence because, as I already discussed, I will be on vacation. Coverage begins at 6 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday on the Eastern Observer. Do check it out. Should be a lot of fun. And then this show, the Daily Wrestling News Show, it returns tomorrow at 10 a.m. John Smith will be the special co-host for tomorrow. We are not in WrestleMania season yet for this show, but tomorrow we'll be talking about all the great news coming out of Dynamite and NXT tonight, including those major announcements from William Regal. And by the way, if you were looking for Dynamite preview, go watch yesterday's episode. That's where we did that. So, like I said, 10 a.m. Monday through Thursday for the Daily Wrestling News Show. And also next week, we have that full lineup of WrestleMania specials. So those are can't miss. All those shows, the Essential Wrestling Podcast, the Daily Wrestling News Show, and the Primetime Rundown are also available on demand through Apple Podcasts and Spotify and those outlets. So if you're driving down the road and need something to listen to, there you go. Just download onto your little iPhone and away you go. John DeConnie, did we cover the wrestling news of the day?
Oh, did we ever? I think we put a bow on the whole thing. There was plenty to consume after last night, so a job well done, I'd say.
You know what? We can take a bow. All right. Well, for John, I am Ryan. This has been the Daily Wrestling News Show for March 10th, 2021. We will see you tomorrow.
See ya.